The Tsukuba International Center of JICA, which stands for the Japan International Cooperation Agency, is located in Tsukuba Science City, a city that coexists in harmony with nature. JICA provides training courses for participants from other countries as part of its assistance to developing countries. The Tsukuba International Center provides training mainly on agriculture, rural development, and related science and technology. The Tsukuba International Center accepts about 1,000 participants from around 100 countries each year as part of its training program. The Tsukuba International Center also works closely with the local people in various activities. Participants therefore enjoy exposure to Japanese traditions and culture and get to know local Japanese families. This video focuses on the grafting techniques of vegetables, just one of our many training topics. The grafting of vegetables was first studied and developed as a way to control injuries caused by continuous cropping. Later, various applications were developed, including a technique to control the growing period without being affected by climate. Vegetable grafting techniques are widely used for growing fruit vegetables in order to develop crops that are more resistant to soil-borne diseases, grow well even at lower temperatures, and have great plant vigor. Grafting needs two seedlings, the base seedling, which is called rootstock, and the seedling to be grafted to the rootstock, which is called the scion. The two seedlings to be grafted should be of the same or similar species. When the cut faces of the two seedlings are put together, a layer of callus forms between them. This callus is cells which grow over the damaged surface of the plant, and vessels then form in the callus tissues. The two seedlings are now fused into one, and water and nutrients flow in the graft union to allow further growth. There are four main types of vegetable grafting: approach grafting, peg grafting, cleft grafting, and ordinary splice grafting. Each of them is suited to specific crops. Next, let's look at two techniques of grafting: approach grafting using tomatoes and peg grafting using watermelons. First, we'll explain the technique of approach grafting with tomatoes. Tomatoes are a vegetable that's growing all over the world. Quality table tomatoes have high marketability and popularity in Japan. But tomatoes grown in protected cultivation using the same field can suffer various disease injuries as a result of continuous cropping. As a solution, we take a tomato that's resistant to diseases for rootstock and another tomato of high quality and put them together by approach grafting. This allows us to continue the production of tasty tomatoes free of disease. The approach grafting procedure is like this. Prepare two seedlings or the rootstock and the scion with their roots spread in the soil. Make a cut into the stem of each seedling to a depth equal to 2/3 the diameter of the stem and splice them together. The rootstock is usually a variety that's resistant to diseases, and the scion is one capable of growing quality tomatoes. Here's the specific procedure of approach grafting with tomatoes. Sow seeds of slow-growing tomatoes as the rootstock. 3 days later, sow seeds of the tomatoes to be used as scions. When the seedlings of both varieties have 3 to 4 true leaves, they're ready for grafting. Now let's begin. First, make the bed soil on which the seedlings will be grown. Sieve the soil to make the soil particles uniform in size. The conditions of the bed soil are: it is rich in fertilizer nutrients, drains water well but holds enough water, and is free from diseases, and has an aggregate structure with excellent water retentivity and drainage. Put soil in the seedling box and level the soil. Make seeding furrows to the depth of about 1 centimeter in the soil. Sow tomato seeds in the soil in the seedling box to grow rootstock. Sprinkle finely sieved soil over the seeds as a soil covering. Remove unnecessary soil using a plate. After sowing, sprinkle plenty of water and then cover the watered soil with newspaper to prevent drying. 3 days later, sow tomato seeds to grow scions. After sowing, cover the seeds with fine soil particles and level the covering as a case of rootstock. Similarly, sprinkle plenty of water over the soil and don't forget to cover it with newspaper. Let's now look at the post-sowing management procedure. Keep the daytime temperature in the seedling box under 30 degrees Celsius, ideally around 25 degrees Celsius. If the temperature rises above 30 degrees Celsius, shade the sunlight to reduce the temperature. Keep the temperature at night not less than 20 degrees Celsius. Periodically sprinkle water and cover the soil with newspaper to prevent the seedling box from drying out. When germination starts, remove the newspaper. When you see 3 or 4 true leaves forming, it's time for grafting. Before grafting, check whether there is anything wrong with the appearance of each seedling and make sure they are not off-type seedlings. Select only the normal ones. The tools used for grafting are a new razor, clips to fix the grafted parts, and transplanting pots. Make holes in the soil of each pot to transplant the grafted seedlings in. Now let's start approach grafting. First, pull out the roots of each rootstock without damaging them. For the rootstock seedlings, leave the 3 true leaves and remove the upper part. Then pull out the seedlings of the scions. Now let's begin grafting. The seedling should be grafted between the first and the second true leaf of the rootstock. It may be grafted under the first true leaf. First, make a cut in the seedling stem of the stalk diagonally downward. Make a cut up to the depth equal to 2/3 the diameter of the stem. After preparing the rootstock, make a cut in the seedling stem of the scion. For the scion, the cut is in the opposite direction to that of the stalk. That is, make a cut diagonally upward. After cutting both the stalk and the scion, graft them together. Fix the grafted part with the clip from the scion side. Plant the grafted seedlings into a transplanting pot with the finger-wide space between them. If the sunlight is too strong, Shade the grafted seedlings for 2 to 3 days to prevent sudden withering by transpiration. After approach grafting the seedlings, crush the stem under the scion to check if the graft is taken. If it has, sever the stem of the scion. Let's see what the cross-section of the graft union looks like. Here you can see that the tissues of the stems are connected. Now let's summarize the important points of approach grafting. Approach grafting is a technique to splice seedlings with their roots on. Sow rootstock seeds 3 days earlier than scion seeds. The seedlings should be grafted between the first and the second true leaves of the rootstock, but may also be grafted under the first true leaf. Leave the 3 true leaves of the rootstock and cut off the upper part. Make a cut into the stem of the rootstock diagonally downward. For the scion, make a cut diagonally upward. The depth of the cut should be 2/3 the diameter of the stem. Fix the graft union from the scion side with the clip. Be careful not to allow the grafted seedlings to wither up. If the sunlight is very strong, provide shade to reduce it. Next, let's learn peg grafting with watermelons. The peg grafting technique is used for cucurbitaceae such as watermelon and cucumber. In peg grafting, the species of plants used for the scion is different from that for the rootstock. For instance, bottle gourds are used as rootstock for grafting watermelons, whereas pumpkins are used for cucumbers. The graft takes well or poorly, depending on the variety of the rootstock. Watermelons do not necessarily go well with any kind of bottle gourd when grafting, and the same is true with pumpkins for cucumbers. First, I'll explain the procedure of peg grafting with watermelons. To begin, sow bottle gourd seeds to grow a rootstock. Three to 5 days later, sow watermelon seeds to grow scions. About 2 weeks later, when a bottle gourd has 1 true leaf, it is time for peg grafting. Let's try peg grafting with watermelons. Check that the seedlings look okay. Use a sharp-top metal spatula or a bamboo or wood spatula to make a hole in the rootstock. Softly pull out a seedling without damaging its roots. The differences from approach grafting are the following. For the rootstock, remove the true leaves and leave the cotyledons. When doing this, steadily hold the basal part of the cotyledon and leave the petiole of the true leaves away from you so that you can easily break the petiole. Cut off the scion. Then sever the stem of the scion diagonally. Hold the stem in your mouth to prevent the cut surface from drying. When grafting the scion to the rootstock, make a small hole at the bottom of the true leaves of the rootstock. When doing this, make sure the tip of the spatula sticks out through the stem. After making the hole, insert the scion with the cut surface facing downward into the hole. The angle and direction when you insert the scion into the rootstock are very important. Insert the scion deeper into the hole in the stem of the rootstock until the tip of the scion sticks out of the other end of the hole. Plant grafted seedlings into a pot so that the roots are spread loosely in the soil. Management of peg-grafted seedlings until the graft is taken is more important than with approach-grafted seedlings. Wrap the boxes containing grafted seedlings with vinyl to seal them. Then cover all boxes again with vinyl. Of the double vinyl coverings, the inner one that directly covered seedlings should be sealed off to maintain high humidity inside the box. It is important to keep the temperature in the space inside the outer vinyl covering at around 25 degrees Celsius and not to allow it to fall below 15 degrees Celsius. When the outside temperature is low, put straw sheets, for instance, over the vinyl to keep it warmer inside. If the scions look very withered, keep them out of sunlight for a day or two, then expose them to sunlight in the morning and evening and gradually increase the duration of exposure. This process is called acclimatization. The point is to make scions receive sunlight as soon as possible and help them grow well. About a week later, the vessels become connected and the sprouts shoot up from the scions. When you are sure the scions are growing, remove the wrapping vinyl from the seedling boxes and provide good water management so that the roots of the rootstocks can get sufficient water. Grafting is completed when you're sure of the graft has taken. Let's remove one cotyledon of the rootstock and check how well the graft has taken. You can see they're definitely connected. Here, let's summarize the important points of peg grafting. Peg grafting is a technique of inserting a scion to a rootstock and is often used for grafting Cucurbitaceae. The species of plants used for scions and rootstock are different, but you should select varieties that are compatible with each other. Sow rootstock seeds 3 to 5 days earlier than scions. Leave the cotyledons of the rootstock, but remove the true leaves. For the scion, keep the embryo and cut it off diagonally. Make a small hole with the sharp-tipped spatula at the bottom of the true leaves of the rootstock. Choose the correct angle and direction of insertion. The correct insertion angle is 45 degrees to the stem. For the scion, face the cut part downward and put it into the hole of the rootstock until a small part of the top is out of the stem of the rootstock. The humidity and temperature of the peg-grafted seedlings should be carefully controlled until the graft has taken. After grafting, if the seedlings are seriously withered, carry out the acclimatization process or temporarily block the light and then expose the seedlings gradually to sunlight. Lastly, let's look at how Japanese farmers carry out grafting when they grow crops. This farmhouse grafts some 6,000 tomato seedlings a year. Let's ask them what they like about grafting.
苗作りっていうのはね、苗繁作と言われるぐらいですから、栽培のね、一生を考えますと一番のキーポイントだろうと、そう思っています。接ぎ木をしないとね、せっかくハウスへ行っても枯れてしまう。 そういう意味では本当に精密品だと思います。今でこそクリップでやってますけどね、これまで20年以上になりますか、この接木始まってね、その間にはね、最初日本独特の和紙亀ですね、それから釣りの時の鉛ですか、薄い板ね、鉛の、そういうものをやってきましたよ。
As we've just seen, grafting is widely practiced in Japan as an important technique for vegetable cultivation. When you've learned grafting techniques, what effective uses of the techniques can you think of?
At first I thought that grafting of vegetables could be difficult, but after being trained here, I've observed that it's very simple. So simple that even farmers will be able to apply it very easily. And the benefit of grafting is that the plants will have the ability to resist diseases which are found in the soil, as well as in some cases it's possible that the plants will become somehow drought tolerant, depending on the rootstock which we have used.
Approach grafting and peg grafting covered in this video are common techniques in vegetable grafting. Grafting for controlling soil-borne diseases enhances the possibility of agriculture. How well the grafting techniques work depends on your innovativeness and creativity.